Good evening, everybody. Tonight's tonight's program is being sponsored by Active Therapies, and I've got Duncan here now. Um, Before we uh, really like speak to Duncan, there's a couple of things I'd like to mention. Number one, thank you very much for all your support. We have now got around about 6 sponsors. And we've got a few more to deal with. So we're going through that like now. I've got somebody trying to sort that out. And really, it's down to my friend next to me here, Duncan. And because he was the one who gave me the advice and everything, what to do and everything. So I would like to thank him for that. Also, if you go into the podcast charts, you know that we are now down to 57. So please have a look into that. And also to tell you, next week's event about the Mason Noise event is now on sale for the tickets. Every single penny will go towards the. What we're going to do, we were all going to put towards the channel and pay more money for material stuff. And so what we decided to do is go after Mind and after our channel. So that's what we're going to do. And the last thing I was going to mention is this, that the guy who last night he contacted me about getting some help, he has now gone into hospital and now he's gone to get help. So thank you very much for all your support for that yesterday. Hello, Duncan. Good evening.
Good evening, Steve. How you doing?
I'm okay, thank you.
Good.
I want. How are you? Because you were telling me you haven't been well all week.
That's right. I've been really fortunate in one way, in the sense that I was eligible for a vaccine last weekend, and that was really exciting stuff. Actually, it's certainly in the small town that I'm in, 50,000 vaccines a week are being administered, which is just tremendous. So, big shout out to everybody that's volunteering, not just in Newark, but all around the country to administer these jabs. It's an absolute nightmare of a task to get everybody's information and then get them in and jabbed so efficiently. So I had mine last week. I had the AstraZeneca jab. Which I'm told is the one to have, and I was also tipped off. A few people said, "Oh, do you know what? You're gonna have to wipe your week out because you're gonna come up with some side effects." And I was like, "No, okay, that's fine." My parents didn't have the AstraZeneca one; they had the Pfizer one, and they had it a week before, and they were absolutely fine. And I went and had my jab, and anybody who says I'm not going to have it because it hurts, let me tell you, from the biggest needle phobe, it's absolutely fine. Yeah. Very, very efficient. Literally stood up, lifted my shirt, and she said, "Going in now," and that was it. I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. Feels a bit like a bee sting, I guess. And I was very relieved. I have to say, very relieved that it was all done and dusted. And I was fine on Saturday night, absolutely fine. And then about 24 hours, maybe 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, I really started to feel bad. I mean, really bad. And I started to come down with really bad flu-like symptoms and massive fatigue and hot and cold sweats, everything that actually it says that is possible to happen. So, no surprise, but it's worth pointing out that those people like me who have a lower immune system, you may be now going through the system at the moment, the jabs, and you're having it. Just give yourself a bit of love, give yourself a bit of time, because for me it's taken a whole week, and I have to say, not that I missed tonight one bit, but I've cleared my whole diary this week. I've not worked, and that's how bad I was. That's how bad I was. And I Tuesday night, I couldn't stand up, I couldn't sit down, I couldn't lay down. Whichever way I moved, I was in tremendous pain. But, and this is the massive thing, am I thankful that all that has gone into my system? Absolutely, am I? And it kind of makes me think, if that this little episode 1 week, one week for me was 1% of what COVID is actually like, then by God, nobody should ever go through that. It was horrible. It was horrible. But I'm so thankful that I've had it, and I'm booked in for my second jab. And the information for those people who maybe haven't seen the news today is that they're going to rapidly go through the 40s, and then hopefully into the 30s quite soon, so we can get everybody vaccinated as fast as we can. It's an amazing thing what these scientists have done. And I know there are many naysayers, and I know there are many people who say, but it allows Tesco's to track me and Bill Gates to know where I am. Well, do you know what? You have a mobile phone, and you leave your mobile phone on, and every time you scan your credit card in Tesco's, it knows exactly what you've bought and where you're going and what you've done with it. Now's not the time to be talking about conspiracy theories and things like that, but let's all just rally together and be thankful that in less than a year, this vaccine's been available, and it's getting rolled out. I know we're going to talk about schools going back tonight, and we'll talk more about my thoughts on the vaccine, and how it works within schools, or doesn't work, perhaps. So yeah, thanks for your concern. Yeah.
What I was going to say is, I had the Oxford one around about 2 or 3 weeks ago now. Right? Was it the Oxford one, sir? Yeah. And I didn't have nothing. I didn't have no side back, no nothing. And I thought, because I've been very ill myself in the past, and I'm still going through a couple of bits. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be really bad with it. But it's nothing. It was nothing at all. The funny thing about it for me was, when they came in, it was like spacemen come into my home. It was nurses. They come in with a great big box of like, and that dream. The dream where you're thinking, soon they're going to open this box, a great big puff of hair is going to come out. It was something like that, really, but it was funny. And they just did a jab, and that was it. Gave me a little card,
Yeah.
And that was it, basically. So, but I'm thankful for that, and and when we have our second one, and I've been thankful more. But at the end of the day, we've got to thank all the staff, all the volunteers, everybody, because they deserve, our thanks, don't they?
It's a very slick system, and the fact that actually we're living in a world right now where, yes, this is all happening. We're living in a world where we're getting a life-saving vaccine for free. Now, people will say, but it's going to come out of my taxes, and nothing's free. No, I get that, but it could have been You know,
much
if you
worse.
want it, you have to contribute,
Mm.
and that becomes a massive ethical argument. So yeah, amazing.
Well, we should do, shouldn't we? Really, at the end of the day, it's not going to. At the end of the day, it's our life. How about all the thousands of people who have died already because of the COVID, and we're so lucky that we are alive. So
Absolutely.
we've got to kind of like do what we are told, and yeah,
My friend is a first responder, so he was volunteering. He was making sure people were nice and chilled out before they were released back into the car park for those that were driving. And I sent him a text on the way home. Not that I was driving, just to be clear. I sent him a text to say, fantastic service. Everybody nailed it. Everybody looked the part. It was convincing, and that's assuring, I guess,
mm,
convincing and assuring. And I said, maybe a little bit facetiously, maybe a little bit sarcastically, I said, but I've been for an injection, and did I miss where I was supposed to pick up the lollipop and the sticker? And he just sent me a note back, and he said, no lollipop, no sticker this time, but a global life-saving drug.
yeah, yeah,
And that absolutely put it in perspective for me.
yeah,
Because it's easy to lose sight of
mm,
this is a a
yeah,
global
yeah,
uh, medication, and it came relatively from nowhere.
yeah. I'm grateful to the NHS and everybody who've done it, and we've got to give the government you know probably a bit of a clap too for what they're doing too. And a lot of people knock them, yes, okay. And there's a lot of conspiracies out there, but let's forget about all that and let's all get on being as one. One, I'm a Christian now, and I believe that we're here for a purpose, and at the end of the day, we just got to get on with our life for the best as we can, and love each other as the way we are. But anyway, there you go. I'm glad you're feeling better because I know it's. I want to like what you are. I want to like to be in bed all week. For me to be in bed all week, I'm telling you, somebody needs to hit me on the head. Knock me out because I had the flu once and I was only in bed for a couple of days and everything. My wife would tell you, right? And when I get the flu, I get the flu. I'm all shaky and I've just got to go to bed. So I'm glad you're feeling better. Really glad feeling better. Okay,
Thank you.
guys. Okay, guys. We are going to be right back. And with 2 seconds, got Duncan here, and he's from Active Listening Therapies. Be back in 2 minutes. Okay. Hi, Duncan.
How you doing?
All right. Sorry about that. We had
That's okay.
outbreaks now.
That's
Okay. So.
brilliant. Brilliant.
Okay, I've got Duncan here from Active Listening Therapies, and we're going to talk. We're going to carry on with our kind of like chat what we've been doing for the last couple of weeks. How so? What my concern is now is that the government now is going to let all the children back to school. Okay, that's fine because they're missing out on education. What I am concerned about is the coronavirus because it's still there, it's still in here. What can we do about it? As a counselor, if someone comes to you and worry parents or anything, what are you going to tell them?
So, whilst I've been, by and large, off this week, I have had dialogue with a lot of parents who are understandably concerned, and their children are understandably concerned for a number of reasons. The kids' view to going back has been mixed. Some people are in the, yeah, this is brilliant, let's get back to normality, I get to see all my friends kind of camp. And other people are in the, well, actually, I've been much more efficient doing my own school lessons. I don't want to put myself back in that environment. And actually, the thought of doing so makes me quite anxious. So we have two clear camps to work from the kids' perspective. Certainly, from a parent's perspective, there is the concern, and I put my parent hat on now. We need to get teachers and teaching staff, TAs, anybody that works within a school, the administration team, the grounds team. We need to get them vaccinated. And without that, I feel it's a little futile in sending kids back to school, because arguably we're doing all this amazing work and we've all worked hard over the past, it's been 12 weeks since we actually broke up from school. And there are one or two people who think actually in a couple of weeks' time, we might be back in the situation where we're in. So it begs the question, is it best just to hold back and say, let's go back at Easter, for example? There are even those people who are saying, and this is a viewpoint not from myself, this is not a professional view, a viewpoint from parents who are saying, do you know what? I think we have to wipe the year away. And that is really significant. So then you go, okay, so let's take the GCSE years, for example. Do you teach that they're going to teach a grade? So the teachers are going to give them their assessments, and their mark is going to be based on how they've done so far and their potential. That's great. So do you send them off into the big wide world and then into sixth form and college and so on and so forth? Or do you hold everybody back a year and cause a backlog actually at entry level, so at age 3.5, 4? The problem with that is supply and demand, isn't it? And kids at the lower schools are going to be impacted, but they're saying the education or the lack of education will be felt for the next 50 years,
Well,
3 generations.
saying that, the trouble is with Duncan, it's all good for saying that, but the trouble is, what you've got to realise is, it's kids' education that is being kind of like, really, they're missing out on education. And
Totally.
the trouble is, GCSEs, their exams and everything, they're just kind of like, they're looking at them and saying, oh, well, we're marking that. And children who are going to school deserve more than that certain mark. You know,
There are, yeah.
how can they, how, sorry, I'm not trying to be funny, but how can they mark on a certain piece of paperwork if these children have done full term at school, you know, and bringing them back already to school? I think, well, between, I'm only just saying this, and there's other people on my radio at the moment. I've got Margaret on the radio and says, Duncan, trouble is, why are the schools sending back the children back at the moment? The COVID is still out there. How are we going to
Yeah,
handle it?
I think let's be clear. I don't think those people within the education community fully support the reasons why the government say we should go back. Ethically, there is a bit of a dilemma because kids do need that education that
Yeah, of course, yeah.
you're saying. So it's, how do you satisfy making sure that we can educate everybody? Now, I'm not a teacher, I'm a counsellor, we know that.
Mhm.
but isn't it about keeping people safe first and foremost?
Yes.
Because there's the anxiety of what, COVID can be in a school environment. It can be.
Mm.
COVID isn't exempt in a school environment.
Mm.
Surely we spend the next 3 weeks ensuring that everybody who has anything to do with a school building or authority has been vaccinated. That would be assuring for me. And then we go, okay, let's get everybody back into school. One thing that the GCSE year children are telling me is that actually, surprisingly enough, they're feeling cheated.
Oh, they are.
And
Of course they are, aren't they?
yeah, they're feeling cheated. So there's the thought process that, oh, this is brilliant. The kids are going to get their exams and they don't have to do anything for it. But they feel hard done by. And they want to shout about it, and quite rightly so. So they are angry. They feel that the next few months are the pinnacle of 5 years worth, arguably 10 years worth of education, and they don't get that opportunity to do their swan song, which is their GCSE exams or their final presentations or whatever they have to do that they've been working towards. So they feel that they've been handed an empty gesture.
Well, stop there, stop there. Linda has messaged me on the radio and says, "Hi, Stephen Duncan. I will never, t- I will never send my children back. I've got 3 children, and they drive me by me at home. But at the end of the day, I will never send them back to school at this moment in time. The COVID is still around, and I'm not chancing it for anybody. Education, their education is more important. And instead of getting education, I'm afraid I don't want them to get COVID." It's true, isn't it? It's really true what you said.
Do you know what, Linda? I have to agree with everything that you say. However, however, the law says that your kids have to go to school, and as soon as the green light comes, and I believe each local authority is making an individual choice as to what years go back and in what capacity
Yeah.
and for how long. The problem we had, certainly in when we had the tier system, so let's say October to December, we had parents just like Linda who quite rightly were worried about the welfare of their children and said, I'm not sending my kids into school. So there would be a COVID outbreak and they would send kids home. That's what would happen. And then as soon as it started to get through one year, it would get through to another. And then parents were saying, well, I'm not sending my child back. Ethically, that's completely the right thing to do. Legally, you are walking a fine line,
Mm.
literally a fine line, because the schools then have the authority to issue monetary fines for non-attendance. What a consideration, law over
Oh
health.
no,
That's
Duncan,
that's an
Duncan,
interesting one.
Would you send your children back to school?
My child has been going back to school 4 days a week to ensure that
Right.
I can do what I do and I can see
Yeah.
clients. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's not he's not in senior school, I might add. So the class, he's in a class of on occasion 6, and I know that the school have done everything they can, and it's a fairly small school, to ensure my child's safety.
Right.
Um, if you're asking me how I feel about everybody going back full time,
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I'm not happy about it. Of course, I'm not. Health over yeah, education is really important, isn't it?
Mm,
What we don't know is, particularly with the younger parents, so anybody that's under 50 at the moment who hasn't got any underlying conditions hasn't had the opportunity for a jab yet.
mm,
So that could be one, possibly two generations of families at school. Who do you know who these mums and dads are working with?
mm,
You can't be responsible for every parent, or a school can't be responsible for every parent, can they? So how do you stop that transmission? Now, actually, I have an issue, and again, I'm not a physician. I'm not a doctor. Why are we not, or why is there still no plan to vaccinate children? They still carry the COVID. Um, they still display symptoms.
mm.
We've been sending kids home from school because they've had symptoms. So why are we not getting the kids done as well?
I'm glad you said that because Russell has just messaged me and says, "Hi Steve, I've just had my vaccination the other day, and my wife, our little, but trouble is I'm concerned about my little boy, and he is 7 years old. What can and the trouble is he can get COVID. Is that right? Um, I don't really, I don't
I
really
don't
know.
know.
I don't know. I can't. I'm not going to give you information, but what I will do, if you could leave your details, I could find out the information for you. Of
Isn't this all about mitigation
course it
and
is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, risk assess the fact that actually, until we've got arguably the 30s, let alone the 40s done, I don't think we're in a position to let kids go back to school.
No,
Um,
totally agree. Totally agree.
the older kids are aware and understanding that there is that potential threat. And anxiety, the closer we get and the more information they get and the more clarity they get, actually will only bring on more anxiety. And I would expect my caseload to increase. Now, there's an ethical problem as well, because I can only work legally because I'm an accredited counsellor. Do you remember we talked last week? Anybody can call themselves a counsellor. Anybody can do what I do. I'm accredited and insured, and that means the guideline is 30 client hours a week. Now, that doesn't sound a lot when you think actually a full-time job could be, up to, there are some full-time jobs that are 55 hours a week. Truck
Mm.
drivers, for example. Um, how do I fit in all of those clients? Because demand is massive, and this is where we come back to what you were saying last week. We need more accredited counsellors in a school environment. What will happen, and this is a prediction, I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine when kids go back, the teaching staff and the pastoral staff will be overwhelmed. I will get a list that's as long as my arm, and from having the autonomy to work with a child for as many weeks as we see fit, I would imagine a cap will come in place that says you have 6 hours to work with this particular client, and then we need to move on due to the demand of the caseload. There in itself is an ethical
Mm.
discussion, because how do you how do you say to a child, well, we've done 6 hours, when actually they've only just started to open up to you? Not everybody will be talking about COVID and anxiety. There will still be people who have been abused, who have been bereaved, who are caring for adults in their lives or doing very adult-like things within their life. And actually, 6 hours in the grand scheme of things to build that relationship is very, very little. So I think the next few weeks, it will start to feel a little bit like a cattle market, unfortunately. And that's a horrible phrase, but I guess there's the thought process that seeing them on a short-term basis and getting these people through the system is better than not getting them through the system at all and then them festering. And then we come back to them maybe after the Easter holidays, after it's died down, maybe even after Spring Bank, to be able to pick up on the, okay, we can do some more personalized counseling with them. Or it may be that actually the anxiety COVID-y style discussions all get put into a list, and I run through them, leaving then clear days to be doing the more complex, because one child's anxiety is very different to another's. You can't say that it's 6 hours worth. It doesn't work like that.
But how are you going to imagine it? Outside imagine it. How are you going to manage it? Because you're going to be bombarded probably with school children, right? And it's only what, two of you and your wife?
Yeah, absolutely. Covering 3
So how,
schools.
how are you
Covering
going to?
3
You've
schools.
got 3 schools. You're going to be covering 3 schools. How are you going to manage it? Will you have to bring in people or?
Possibly, but then it's bringing in people who share your ethos for the company and your follow the positive regard of the thing that the company structure that we've built up over the years. That's difficult, and then people say, yeah, but actually we're buying into you and Louise. You're the brand. You're the people we buy into. So actually, we don't want anybody else. So there we have to go. Okay, how can we most effectively? I mean, look, with 2 of us, that's 60 hours worth of child time to deal with throughout a week. That's quite a lot. We
What
have
do
to
you
be as
do?
efficient as we can be.
What do you do to offload? You must have a time where you've got to offload.
Yeah, absolutely. This learning, it took me 5 years to train, and learning the skills to counsel, arguably, is probably 1 year. It's all about, and there's a reason why we called our business Active Listening Therapies. Learning to listen is really important. Learning the verbal, and the non-verbal stuff. It's much deep. It's about self-care. It's about self-awareness. And it's something that as a young counsellor in your career, you go, this is way off topic. Why am I not doing, Freud or Carl Jung or the theorists? Because there's no point until you can hold yourself. You're going to be no good. You're not going to be in that fit position. So things that legally I have to do. I have to have a sort of counselling session myself once a month. That's a legal requirement, and that's called supervision, where I see a more experienced counsellor, and we don't talk about my. Occasionally, we'll talk about my feelings. It's about how I'm coping, how I'm dealing with problems, how I'm positioning myself to make sure I'm in the best ethical position that I can be. I have, over the last 18 months, probably been able to shut the door at the end of the day and leave my mind in the office, or that part of my mind in the office, to start off with. And it would be on a Friday night. I would see clients. It would always be on a Friday afternoon. People tend to bring up more emotion on a Friday afternoon than they would maybe on a Tuesday morning, for example. But I would come home wet through, literally wet through, and it would feel like I'd been to the gym and I'd done a workout, because my blood was pumping and I was on edge and I was really keyed in, and I had to overcome that. I had to relax. And I can I liken it to when you learn to drive for the first time. You grab the steering wheel really tightly and you move your head as you turn, and so on and so forth. As you become a more experienced driver, you learn to relax on the controls and you're looking ahead more. And that's exactly what the process is. The difficulty, some see it as a difficulty. Actually, I would say it's positive in mine and Louise's case. Because of the ethical boundary and confidentiality that we put in place, we can't come home and go, how was your day, darling? Who did you see? What did you talk about? Because we can't do it. We can't do it. So there's no bringing up the day when we get home. Admittedly, it'll be, how are you? How was your day? But that's it. We have to talk about non-clinical things. We have to engage with our son. My son's ever so intuitive. He knows when I've had a bad day, and he'll just come and give me a hug or put his hand on me and just say, I'm giving you some loves. I became a Reiki master a few years ago, and Reiki was something that I was just, I guess that was my distraction, if you like. How do I distract myself from the clinical nature of counselling? So I looked at sort of spirituality, and I did some Reiki, and I thought, this is a bit weird. Don't know whether I believe in it or not. And I did my first attunement and my second, and then my Reiki master. And my son has completely picked it up on the fact that, let me just kind of put my hands on you and just feel the love. Now, I'm not a churchgoer. I wouldn't say I'm not Christian. I have been an active churchgoer. I'm not at the moment. That doesn't mean I don't believe in spirituality. And when people in the church say they feel energy or they feel the calling inside them, that's what I can like the spirituality in Reiki. And I do a lot of self-care and meditation on myself, so that when I have half an hour, I'll lay on the bed and I will just work from head to toe, and mentally kind of just work through how my body is feeling. And whether you believe in spirituality or not, it doesn't really matter. It's about spending time on yourself and just recognizing how you feel mentally, how you feel physically, what your awareness is, what you're tasting at the moment, what you are, what your senses are telling you. And actually, I use the techniques in counselling. We call it grounding.
Mm,
Be aware of the surroundings. Be aware of how you feel. So to answer your question, yeah, the chilling out and the meditation, um, I find meditation really interesting. I find I can take myself into some amazing dark, and I'm not talking about dark as in satanic, some dark, deep places that are amazing. And half an hour later, I can feel like I've had 2, 3, 4 hours sleep. There's
mm,
got to be something in that, um,
mm.
something on a higher level that makes you go,
Well,
okay, well, what is the energy?
mm.
You
I
know?
think we all, I think we all have kind of like our own spirituality. I do believe in God. I do really believe in it, only because I've had experience. You know, and but that's another story about that one. But the trouble is, it's kind of like, and we all come to a certain point in our life, and we all need something to hold on to. It's okay. We got a wife. I've got a wife. I've got a beautiful wife, and I'm so lucky. I can tell you honestly. And but the trouble is, though, we need something else too. And for me, because for my past, I need something like to hang on to like a ladder. Because I was just falling down, and I needed something to pick me back up again. So my faith helped me. To believe in God. I do it. I was speaking to somebody the other day about Reiki actually to um, an X Factor star, and he was telling me. He said, "Steve," he said, "Mason Noise, he's called. He
Yeah.
was on X Factor, and he was saying to me, look, I I put my singing away now, and what I do now, I'm a Reiki master. I teach Reiki and all that lot." And I said, "Oh yeah, that's really good. But you were all into singing." He said, "Well," he said, that doesn't worry me no more, Steve. I've had all the fame, and I don't like it. I'd rather have, I'd rather sort myself out. It's all about me." And you're correct. You're correct. It's all about yourself, isn't it?
There's a lot of people who say, it just doesn't exist, and that's fine. I'm not here to prove or disprove spirituality in any way, shape, or form. But what I do with kids when they go, "Oh, you're getting a bit deep now, sir," or "How's this going to benefit me?" And I go, "Just try it." And they come back next week and they go, "Do you know what? I kind of laid down and I just put my hands on the part of my body that was hurting, and I had a really cool sleep, and it was like 30 minutes. And then I woke up and I was like totally refreshed. And I was like, well, that's brilliant, isn't it? And the light bulb moment for kids is when you go, okay, put your hands together, do that. When you can do that and you start to feel like an energy, like two magnets coming together, and they go, oh yeah, I can feel that. I can feel that. And then you go, well, that's energy, isn't it? We can't see it, we can't taste it, we can't touch it, arguably, uh, but there's something there, um,
Mm.
and for those, it it works as a some kids, they come to counselling and they feel like they've been pushed into it, or they think that they are broken, and they're not willing to talk about mental health.
Mm.
So to be able to go, do you know what? Okay, let's scrub the mental health thing. Let's talk about you and how you're feeling, and how are you sleeping at night. How can you get a better night's sleep? How can you um, think positive in the morning? One thing I've been working on with a lot of kids recently is, we have the switch that says you can you can have something bad happen to you. The choice is, do you want to carry that feeling throughout the day? Or do you want to accept it and understand it and then turn it off and be aware of it? So, for example, you can get up in the morning and you can be running late for the school bus, and then you trip over your front doorstep, and then you cut your leg, and then you can let that really annoy you, and that can be the choice between a good day and a bad day. And if it becomes a bad day, it then becomes distractive and destructive in the classroom. So these kids are then angry, and then they're getting, detentions, which makes them more angry. So all in all, because they were late and they didn't acknowledge that, and then they tripped over the step, or they fell down the last stair, or whatever, they carried that throughout the day. So I say to them, turn it off. That happened. Brush yourself down, get a new pair of tights, whatever. Carry a pair of tights in your bag so you can come to school with a bit of dignity. And close it off. Close it off. What a lot of children struggle with is they go from one class to another feeling very negative, because they think they're not doing very well, or the anxiety is hanging over them and they can't shake the feeling, or they know they're going home to a bad situation, or they couldn't afford their lunch, or whatever it may be. But what's happening is it's impacting on their, their spirituality, I guess, is impacting on their education. So to be able to turn it off and go, okay, I'm aware of that. I'm not going to let it bother me now. I'm going to concentrate on the lesson that I'm doing, and then take that a stage further. And when the bell goes, the stress of your science lesson, you don't take it to English. You leave it in the science lab and come back to it the next time you have science. But nobody tells kids this. Kids are walking around with a virtual backpack full of problems. Whereas if somebody says to them, you don't need to carry all this around with you, the stress that is in the classroom is in the classroom, but you don't need to take that away. You don't need to let that impact in your next lesson. If your next lesson is art and you really love art, you're really good at it, you want to be embracing it rather than feeling, under the weather because you've had a really bad science lesson, for example. And, these are the techniques that sometimes it's not about counselling. It's about life skills and talking to them about how the life choices that we make in the morning can determine how we feel for a day, for a week, for a year. And that blows people's minds. And that's, that's before you get into why you're feeling anxious, what are the causes, what's happening at home. We can get kids thinking in a positive attitude straight away. I know, again, stress every time we talk. I'm not a teacher. I can hear the teachers in my head from my office in schools. They will be putting the pressure on the kids now because they will be under pressure. That's their job. Okay, they're going to be judged on results.
I'll tell you what we do. I'll tell you what we do. Well, that's we're going to get some questions of somebody.
Go for it.
Right, Rob wants to know: should I keep my children at home? I'm worried about getting a fine. What do you reckon, Duncan?
I can't make that judgment for you. It's parental choice, isn't it? I don't know his circumstances. I don't know the school. What I will say is it's okay to be feeling the way you're feeling as an adult and as a parent. Don't let anybody try and tell you any different, because these are concerns that we're having as parents, and we need to address them. And we're not being told what to do, and we're not actually being given a choice. That bothers me. As to what was it, Rob? As to what they should do, trust your gut. Trust your
Yep.
gut.
I've got Anna here. My daughter's supposed to have had her GCSEs last year, Duncan. But the trouble is, they are saying now that she might be a year behind. And the trouble is, she's going to stay another year at school, which she didn't
Yeah.
really want to.
Yeah.
We have a family business, and we wanted her to go into our family business, and she was really looking forward to it. But the Education Authority written to me and my husband a few weeks ago saying that she will be taking her GCSEs in September. What can I do?
Again, this is a question for the local authority, but isn't this a good example of the anxiety that as parents we're being faced with?
Mm,
And these are answers that I can't professionally tell you what to do. As a counsellor, I don't give advice. As a counsellor, I'm here to work with individuals
mm,
and couples and organisations to find the best in their resources, so their staff, their children, couples, yourself. In terms of if the local authority is holding your child back, there's a good reason for that, and that's probably because the GCSEs are not able to be rolled out in that particular area. I don't know. That's
mm,
purely a guess. I am having lots of similar conversations with parents and children, and it's assessing, is another year such a big impact? Let's say you were going to get a 3 in your GCSE, so that would be a low B or a high C back in yesterday's figures. Why not sit them again and apply yourself and get an even better grade?
mm, mm,
So, let's turn this around and think of the positive and think, actually, your child has got another opportunity to do this. You might, consider the benefit that comes with that, particularly if you've got your own business, and how that will benefit your business and the legacy of the business. Another year at school, another year of maturity. I don't think that's a bad thing. I left school at 16 to go to college. I left school with 2 GCSEs, 2 grade Cs. Everything else was a fail. I now have 2 degrees. But do
mm.
I regret not actually putting that foundation in place? Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to go to a specialist college with a brand new course, and it was brilliant. However, looking back, what I should have done was taken the extra year to redo my GCSEs. And then I can say, actually, I got 10 GCSEs rather than 2 GCSEs. There's a
Yeah,
personal pride thing that comes a little bit with age, that actually for kids it seems, yeah, I want to get out. I've been doing this for 11 years or 10 years. I want to get out. I want to see the world.
mm.
Actually, it's only 9 months in the grand scheme of things when you take your holidays out of it.
Yeah.
Enjoy the fact that you're going to get all the holidays, because you ain't going to get that if you go to college or if you go into a work environment. So
Well,
think of the positive.
saying that, Claire, I've got Claire here, and she's saying, "Hi, Steve. My son has been off all this time from school. He's 15 years old, and he doesn't really want to go back to school. Um, he's been off so long now; he's got used to it."
Yeah, I hear that a lot. There's a lot of 15 and 16-year-olds who are now in the position where they're potentially mentally ready to move on, because the time between being in school and not being in school would have been the same as what it would have been from finishing your exams or doing your exam leave to actually then going into the big wide world. So it's going to feel tough for young people, particularly if they have got it in their head that they want to leave at 16, but they might not get the opportunity to, or they might not have the resources to be able to do that. It's such a personal choice. But what I must say is, we have to be aware of the law.
Yeah.
And the law says your children have to go to school.
Yeah.
How we deal with that, a discussion with your headmaster that says, here are my concerns, what are you doing to placate them, would make me feel better. It's tough.
And let's leave it on that. Thank you, Duncan.
Pleasure.
And that's Duncan. Yeah. And active listening therapies, please look them up. And if everything will be on my website, all the links and everything will be on my website. Yeah, thank you very much for all your time. Just stay there for a minute. And okay, so at the end of the day, it's really up to yourself if you want to send your child to school or not. I can't tell you anything, or Duncan can't tell you anything. That's up to you. Also, what I can say to you is this: we're going through really, really bad times at the moment. The government are saying, yes, things are getting better. But at the end of the day, I want everybody to take care of themselves. And until next time, have a good day and take care of yourselves. Thank you. Bye bye for now.